Welcome back to Rocker's Beer Review. It's Christmas Eve. It's very Christmassy here in the Rocker household. And today, well, we're gonna have two videos come out in one day, which is quite unusual for me. And please don't expect that coming forward, because I'm trying to do one video a day is pushing it. So two videos today, because I wanted to get these two videos pretty much together. So I've outlined my top three beers. I hope you've seen that video, so check that one out. My top three beers of 2024. And also today I'm going to be doing my top 10 breweries of 2024. So well, let's get on with it. So 10 breweries that I found. No, I went through all my reviews, and I went through all the breweries and reviews, and I was quite surprised. The biggest surprise I had was that I haven't really drank many different breweries. And, you know, there might be the odd one. Well, I've drank one beer from that, and then that'll be it for the whole year. So when I started putting them together, it was quite easy. Certainly the top 5 or 6 was just literally wrote itself. I just had to sort of think, well, which one was I think are better than the others. And a lot of that comes down to the beers I've drank this year. I'm drinking an Azvex, for example. I've drank a lot of Azvex this year, but just because I've had the way it works for me. I mean, I don't know, you guys, let me know if you're the same. You have a beer from a brewery and you think, oh, that was really nice. Yeah, I like that. Or you look at the hops and you think, yeah, I like those hops. And then you seek out the next one. And then you see those hops or some different hops, but the brewery's there. And you think, well, they made a lot of beer last time. It was good. Let's try them again. And then when you have them the second time, or quite close in a period, I think you go, yeah, they're the breweries I'm gonna pick. If I'm gonna pick 10 beers from a bottle shop, for example, they're gonna be in that top. I'm gonna pick 10 out. One of those 10 beers is gonna be from them, because I know they're good, and that's what makes a good brewery, and that's really what gets into the top 10 here. These are beers that I've drank more of, and I know I've drank more of because I've had some beers beforehand that were good, and I've consistently kept them. So let's go through it. Number 10, probably surprising, but number 10 I'm going to put Cloudwater, because my beer, one of the beers in my top 3 you would have noticed was this one here. Oh, he throws it over the thing. This one here, which was a surprise, the Solo Ponticello double IPA. Really enjoyed it. Thought it was very good, and I thought it's just a very well brewed beer. And I look back, and I had a few. There were some birthday beers that I did from Cloudwater. And yeah, I think they've spread themselves a little thin in terms of the type of beers that they're doing. They do a lot more, and they're a little bit inconsistent. Their pricing is a bit weird as well. Sometimes you can see them and they're quite cheap, and sometimes they can be quite expensive, which it seems a little bit strange. I don't know if they're just experimenting with that. I've seen some of their IPAs at like £4 and stuff, just over £4, and that's pretty cheap for an IPA these days from a pretty big pedigreed brewery. But I think they're worthy of 10 position. I will still buy Cloudwater beer. Yes, they've had a few misses, but they've had more hits than misses. And when they do hit well, they hit very well. So in 10th place, I'm putting Cloudwater. In 9th place, I'm putting Gravity Well. You might have seen my 2 videos for Inner Core and Outer Core. Both were in their 80s. One of them was actually, Outer Core was 85, I think it was. So one of the highest ratings of the year. And probably just missed out, really, in terms of my top 3 beers. But I've looked through and I've drank a few Cloudwater IPAs, and they've been good. They've been very good. Maybe not great, but very good. And I've never had a bad Gravity Well beer. They make very good IPAs. I've had the occasional pale ale that I haven't reviewed on the channel as well from them recently that was good as well. And I just think they're worthy, because I don't think you don't see many reviews for Gravity Well. But those 2 double IPAs really made me realise that actually they've got a very good pedigree of making very good beers. And it was the first double IPAs I've had from them. And I will not, if I see a double IPA from them again, I will buy it, you know, because you get 2 good ones like that and you think, well, you know, can they go wrong? You're probably not. So Gravity Well, I think, are worthy of my 9th position. In 8th position, another one that might be a bit of a surprise to people is Northern Monk. Now, I've always loved Northern Monk. I think they've always been the top supermarket beer provide. I mean, a lot of people know Northern Monk for their supermarket beers, you know, whether it be Transient, whether it be any of their Faith in the Future stuff, whether it be Heathen, or even pale ales like Faith. I think that they are the top supermarket beer, even though the last few ones weren't so great. And I say the last few ones, but the last one I drank from them was the one which they had with Flock, that was in Tesco, and that's a fairly new one, and I thought that was very good for a supermarket beer, and it was almost as good as some of their best stuff. This year I also did I went through which is the best Northern Monk IPA. You might have seen a series of videos that I did. Pretty much came up with what a lot of people think Transient is probably their best one. They've had some very good ones in supermarkets. But the real reason why I think they're worthy of being my top 10 is really their Patrons Project stuff. Again, another one of their beers that we've had this year, in the last couple of weeks, their double IPA, The Ascension, which was a collaboration with Beacon Verdant, but was an incredible double IPA. Was up there with some of the top double IPAs I've had this year. And because of that, you know, I think their Patrons Project stuff is as good as even some of the top breweries in the country. I think that the problem is that they do so much stuff in supermarkets that people sort of they rate them based on the supermarket stuff, but I don't think you should. If you've had any of their Patrons Projects, they're always good. They're quirky. They've got great artwork. They've got this sort of flip open cover. There's more information. It just feels like you get a bit more of an experience with a beer. They try with different hops. They do collaborations. I think they're worthy. And actually, the more I talk about them, the more I think, yeah, well, actually, I think that they should probably be higher up than just in 8th position. But I think Northern Monk in 8th position, they're always been in my top 10. I think they've obviously, over the years, they've gone down, but they are still there. And I still think I have a lot of, to want of a better word, a lot of faith in them to continue to be a good brewery into 2025. So in 8th position, Northern Monk. In 7th position, we're going to have Sure Shot. Now, again, another brewery that have been consistently good throughout 2024. I've had some good beers from them. I've had some very good beers. The Bigfoot Rodeo Double IPA, which had the experimental HBC 1109. I thought that was very, very good. I really enjoyed that beer. But lots of good ones. I think last year I actually had some of their best beers. But I think, again, about consistency, Sure Shot definitely have got to be in there. So I'm putting them in 7th position. In 6th position, once were my number one brewery, and I've always been in my charts and usually in the top 3. So they've fallen out of the top 3. And maybe that's unfair, but there's some other breweries I think have really kicked on this year. And so in 6th position is Polly's. Yeah, I mean, we've had one of the best beers of the year, which was their double IPA with North. That was really good. That was my number one beer from the year. And even though they're only in 6th position, but yeah, I don't know what it is. I think the supermarket beers have really tarred their reputation, in my opinion, because I don't think they were as good. I know some of the reasons behind that. They changed some of the yeasts and all that sort of stuff, but I just don't think they're quite as good as they were. They still release great pale ales. I still think they're one of the best breweries for making pale ales. But yeah, just a little bit more inconsistent now. And as I say, I think for me, the fact that they're still in my top 10 and in 6th position, that's a good thing. But if you look at the 5 that are ahead of it, they've either cemented themselves in that top position or they've really pushed on in 2024. So in 5th position is Rivington. I think they're a brilliant brewery. I love their beers. They make great pale ales. Again, My Chaise Long was one of my best pale ale of the year, and it was in my top. I put it in my top 3 for the year. But I've had some incredible double IPAs. The Evil Dead 2 rebrewed this year. But I think I had at the beginning of the year Blood Machines that was really, really, really good as well. Very good brewery. They make beers in 500ml cans, which is also good. Yeah, and the more I think of it, again, another brewery that could easily be in my top 3, but I just think that the breweries ahead of them were just incredible this year. But Rivington are a very good brewery, and if you don't drink enough Rivington, then you definitely should, because you get value for money with the 500ml cans. I think pales, IPAs and double IPAs have all been good from them. So yeah, give them a go. They're definitely great. In fourth position, and it's probably a brewery that I've drank the most beers from this year, and that's Track. I mean, their double IPAs have been incredible. I've got about 3 of those in the fridge right now that I haven't even drunk. I'm going to drink over Christmas. So you'll see more Track beers reviewed. I think double IPAs are their real sweet spot. And as I've become a massive fan of double IPAs this year, then obviously Track are higher up in my breweries. But their IPAs have been good as well. But really the double IPAs are the key thing. And they do the gold top stuff. I've had Glimmer, which was I really enjoyed that beer. That was a highly recommended beer. And I've got another gold top in the fridge. As I said, they've done birthday beers that we've had. I just think I think the thing is again, when I say about that, if you drink a lot of beers from one brewery, then you start drinking more from them. And Track, I think I've probably drank more Track than a lot of breweries. They're certainly one of the biggest beers that I've reviewed on the channel. So I'm putting Track in 4th position. Then in 3rd position, again, I don't think I've drank as many, but I've drank some good ones, and that's Beak, because I just think, again, very good brewery. They are consistently good. Their IPAs are really, really good. I think for IPAs, that's the thing for them, Beak. But I've had some double IPAs. They've collaborated with other stuff, and they've always been good. But the one thing I'd say about Beak is that they've used this anchovy hop. I've had a couple of beers where they've used anchovy hop, and they're only brewery that I've had beer from with the anchovy hop. And I think anchovy hop is a brilliant hop. It needs to be used more. And their beers with them in have just pushed them up into top level. But they're consistently score above 80 in their IPA. So I think they're worthy of 3rd place. So Beak Brewery's in 3rd. And then in 2nd place, well, it's the brewery that I'm drinking now. This is an Azvex beer. And again, Azvex is another brewery that I've drank a lot of, and I'm putting them in 2nd place. They are, in my mind, I don't really know why, but I sort of almost think they're the new Pollies, because they release lots of beers, 3 or 4 beers a week, different beers. They do a lot of IPAs and double IPAs, and that's mainly what I've drank from them. They've all been very good, if not great. But again, it's about consistency. And I've just picked this one at random. It's a 7% IPA with Citra, Amarillo, Mutueka in it. It's a really lovely beer. And it's just a very, very good beer. And they are consistently making good beer. I like their artwork. They do lots of interesting artwork. This is probably one of the worst artworks, but they've done some really good artwork this year with the cans. I went to the tap room this year, actually twice. I've got one of their ice cream scoop beers in the fridge I'm quite excited about. I'm going to drink over Christmas as well. Their scoop beers they're the hype beers, and they've been very good. If you like sours, but these are ice cream sours, so they're thicker and they're just great. They're just really, really great. And I think that's pushed them up, and in my opinion, to make them into just like not just a brewery that makes great doubles and single IPAs, but obviously they can do the sour stuff as well. And yeah, Azvex, I think we'll see how they push on in 2025, but I think 2024 has been a good year for them. 2023 was strong, but I think for me 24 has been a better year for them, and that's why they've made it into 2nd place. So well done, Azvex. And then in my top position, well, it's an old school, beer brewery that's always been in my top 3. But this is Verdant, 1st place. Again, consistently good beers. I've had some great doubles from them. I've had some great single IPAs from them. Yes, they sort of seem to be very much on the New Zealand hop sort of bandwagon. They've made a lot of beers with that this year. But again, every beer, I know if I go and buy a Verdant beer, it's going to be good, and sometimes it's going to be very good. It's never average, and never poor. And I don't think there's any brewery that I can say that. I mean, the likes of Polly's, which I've always been a big fan of, have done poor beers. Even Azvex, I've had a couple of average beers from them, You know, the odd IPA and the odd pale ale that I just felt wasn't quite as good. But Verdant, I've never had an average or a poor beer from them. So their consistency is very high, and they've made great beers. And they are just, for me, I just think they've just got this little bit of a wow factor. They've got this certain thing with the way that their beers are brewed. The mouthfeel's always good. The water profile's always good. The hops they choose are good. The whole crafting of the beer, even when there is a bit New Zealand heavy, which a lot of their beers have been, there's a complexity to it. It's just a sign of a very good brewery, in my opinion. So I have to put them in first place. And they've made some great beers. And they haven't made that again, none of their beers have been in my top 3. But I've probably taken 10 beers from them that have all been at least in the high end of the recommended or highly recommended sort of level in terms of scores. So a very good brewery, and again, worthy of they've managed to keep consistency with the likes of Asvex and Track and Rivington and Beak that have pushed this year. Verdant have said, you know, we're still number 1 and we're staying there, and I think that is why. And that is why they're number 1, because I think that they can continue, and they've moved up a little bit and they haven't dropped. Polly's have dropped. The brewery that's dropped the most, Daya were in my top 3. I don't know, maybe they weren't last year, but certainly the years previous to that they were. They're one of my favourite breweries, but their consistency is all over the place at the moment. They can make very good beers, but they can also make very, very average beers. And I don't know why that is, but they've fallen out my top 10. You know, I think that, you know, maybe they'll come back, but, you know, I always put them like Verdant. I always sort of mix them with Verdant, Polly's, and Daya. Were they always in the top 3 for me? But as I say, Daya have dropped right out. Polly's have dropped down, but Verdant have stayed the same, so they're worthy of my number 1. So there's maybe that's a bit of a long drawn out top 10, but I'm interested to know what you guys think about your top 10 breweries. Is there a brewery that's really blown it out of the park this year? Is there a brewery that you still really like, but not quite as consistent, or you haven't, maybe I have as well, haven't picked the right beers from certain breweries? So you know if I'd picked another half a dozen beers from, say, Polly's, for example, that weren't the ones that I drank and reviewed, they might have been higher up. So let me know in the comments what's your favourite breweries of the year, or your top 3 or your top 5, or if you want to do your top 10, let me know your top 10. Any breweries that you've discovered this year, new ones that you think, well, this could be a brewery to watch out for next year. I'm trying to think which ones I think of that. I mean, there was breweries that were just outside my top 10, like Baron. I think they're a very good brewery. There was a new brewery that I probably, the review hasn't gone out yet, but I've reviewed it. They're called Pinter. Although I talk about Prism in the review, because that's who they collaborated with on those beers. But 2 beers from them, very good, and I'm looking for more from them. There's a couple of others. There's one that did that was, again, another review that hasn't come out yet, one for a Verdant one. They collaborated with Dos Quies or something, Dos Quies, and they're a Spanish brewery. I've seen a few beers now from them, but I haven't drank them yet, but I think that they could be a potential one as well. So any good potential breweries that I should be looking out for 2025. As I say, when I started this video, and I know this is getting a bit long now, when I started this video, I was like, I've kept to these top 10. There wasn't many other beers on the outside that I drank more than 2 or 3 beers from. So I want to make 2025 the year of discovery of new breweries. So let me know if there's any new breweries that you found and you thought, yeah, you got to try these and drink more from them. And let me know in the comments. And until then, well, all I can say is Merry Christmas. Enjoy great craft beer. Asvex, even the Glass, Polly's, they make good beers. Any of those top 10 breweries I think are worthy of your time. If you disagree with any of them, let me know. Tell me I'm talking rubbish, and which ones would you swap out for another one. Let me know in the comments. And until the next one, you know what you do. Drink good craft beer, like, subscribe, and keep on rocking. Merry Christmas, everyone.